welcoming those members of the public and press who've joined us today for this meeting of the Cabinet. With several important issues to consider at today's Cabinet meeting, but before we begin the formal meeting, I have some housekeeping information that I need to share. First, please be aware that this meeting is being live streamed and that a recording of the meeting will be available to view on the Council's website. Second, the Council allows filming and photography at its public meetings, so please feel free to take pictures and post to social media during the meeting. Third, can ask everyone to turn their mobile phones to silent or vibrate whilst the meeting is taking place. And finally, in terms of housekeeping notices, there is no fire alarm scheduled for today. So if the alarm sounds, please leave by the nearest marked fire exit and proceed directly to the fire assembly point. Item 1, apologies for absence. Matt, will you kindly report any apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Leader. We have one apology for absence from Councillor Nick Thorburn, Cabinet Member for Growth and Regeneration.
Thank you. Item 2, does any member wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? I see no hands raised. Members have been asked to notify Democratic Service of any declarations in advance of the meeting to support the smooth running of this meeting. Item 3, minutes of the 11th and 20th of March. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of the Cabinet meeting on the 11th and 20th of March 2025. We're being asked to approve the minutes of the Cabinet meeting on both of those dates as an accurate record. If any member doesn't agree, please raise your hand. Okay, there's no hands raised, so item 4. Item 4 is petitions and public questions. Matt?
None received.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to move to strategic items. Item 5 is the 2025-26 Capital Programme of Works. This item can be found on pages 13 to 32 of the agenda. Councillor Ellis, Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport, will you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I will. I'm pleased to present this report setting out an investment of more than £7.5 million in our highways and transport infrastructure. The annual Transport Capital Programme is funded through a grant from the Department for Transport, and we have compiled a programme of works across the city based on inspection data to ensure we are directing the funding to the areas of greatest need. The programme will see the delivery of a variety of schemes that will upgrade parts of our network, including roads, footpaths, street lighting, bridges, cycle routes, pavements and bus stops. Of the programmes of works, they include integrated transport improvements, highways improvements, pothole prevention improvements, street lighting improvements and bridge improvements. And the programme will be delivered through our highways contractor M Group, who were formerly known as Milestone.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Members, we will now move to questions and debate. Do members of the committee have any questions, please? Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Leader. My question is, whilst I welcomed £7.5 million worth of investment on, transport and improvements within things, how do we make sure that we're getting value for money from our contractor? I know we have quite a long contract with them, and it's often raised that when members of the public see it, they're quite eye-watering figures. But what do we do to make sure that what's happening is where we're getting value for money and they're not just taking us for a ride, let's say?
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Yes, you are right. It is a huge contract which spans all of our infrastructure work and our highways, bridges, pavements, etc. And ongoing review is required to make sure we get best value for money across the board, and because it is quite a complicated contract. I think I'll hand over to Adrian to give a little bit more meat on that bone.
Thank you. Thanks very much, and thanks for the question. Yeah, we're very alive to this. As Councillor Ellis says, the value of this contract is significant, and the work that Milestone deliver for the city is crucial, of course, to keep the city moving and keep road users and pedestrians safe, and also to support our growth agenda. The current contract is due to expire in 2028, although there is a provision in that contract for an extension. It was initially procured via competitive tender, and of course Milestone took over from the previous contractor some years ago. On a regular basis, we hold a monthly board meeting with senior officials from Milestone and from the City Council. The director, service director, exec director and the cabinet member are in attendance, and we review performance across a range of performance indicators, including financial performance, to make sure that that value is being driven through the contract. And we also monitor quite carefully how much additional revenue we generate through awarding additional works to Milestone. So there are two forms of works delivered through the Milestone contract. One is this sort of work that's in the report before you today, what we call sort of general maintenance work, and then secondly the additional projects and programmes that might be commissioned via Milestone as a result of us securing additional grant funding. Financial performance is monitored very closely on a monthly basis. What I would say, though, to provide further assurance is for the projects where we have secured additional funding, and therefore there's no obligation for us to commission Milestone to deliver those projects, we have started to test more and more the market to make sure that what we're getting back from Milestone is competitive. And in fact, due to meet with another operator in a few weeks' time just to explore possible alliances around some of the major growth projects we've got going on in the city. So that's the context currently. We do have an opportunity to review the current contract and its value as we approach the next break in the contract, as I say, in September 2028, which we'll work closely with the cabinet member towards.
Thank you, Adrian. Angus, do you want to...
Just want to add to that. Yes, there's an opportunity to review it, but they do Milestone do a wonderful job. And the other thing about it is, 11th of June, they're up for a national award. They've been nominated for a national award, Highway Services Award. So the performance is really good. You know, I think it's important that we put that out there because it's easy to knock City Council services. But we are, you know, best value is important and we will review things. Thank you,
Councillor Ellis. It's a good benchmark. Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Leader. Can I just come back on one of the money that we've allocated, £1.8 million to, is potholes. Now, I often get complaints, and I'm sure other councillors will do, is that when we fill in potholes, the materials they use just so unsightly. Now, I don't know if that can be anything, or as cabinet member, Councillor Edson can take that back with them. We can do anything, and it's just one of those things that, you know, the public, or it's the one thing that they complain about. We don't get as many complaints about potholes as we used to, but when we do, that's what they're complaining about. Same with resurfacing. When they do resurfacing, it just doesn't look very nice, and I don't want them to be cutting costs or using material that's not really acceptable. So what can we do to make sure that, you know, the work is up to standard?
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you for your question. And of course, the potholes is very important, and it's an area that we've got extra funding from national government via the combined authority. So there's been extra funding from the government on this. And it's important. There's criteria that we've got to meet, and that they review, so we continue getting funding. I'm going to pass over to Adrian again, because I can remember I've actually discussed this prior to, but there is a methodology, there is a plan for the extra money for potholes, if Adrian can.
Sure, thank you. So Councillor Ellis is quite correct. The additional funding for pothole prevention work requires a whole new regime of reporting. Historically, previous governments awarded councils discretionary additional funding for pothole maintenance and improvement work, but there was no requirement to report back. Under the new arrangements, we're required to evidence the impact of that funding, quite rightly. So certainly in terms of the way that money is spent and making sure that it's spent wisely, but after delivering permanent repairs, I think is going to be something that we're going to be held to account on much more than ever before, and that report will exist in the public domain. I think the other thing to say is that we work with Milestone all of the time on new technologies, and we've trialled several things over the last couple of years to look at how we might deliver pothole repairs in different ways using different forms of machinery that cause less disruption but create a permanent repair. I think watch this space. The technology is changing all of the time, and actually by comparison to many other councils, we're generally, and I know one pothole is one pothole too many, but we're generally in a much better position, I think, than many councils across the country.
Thank you, Adrian.
Check. Just one last question. I know about 2-3 years ago, we had this all singing, all dancing pothole machine. Whatever happened to that? Do we ever use it, or do we give it back?
Yeah, we have. Part of the Milestone contract is that we have a share in that machine. So periods throughout the year, we have access to it. We've also had trials of other new technologies, and we'll continue to push Milestone to bring those to the city. They stay with us for a week or two, and we see if they're offer any better service. But yes, we've got access to the Dragon machine and all that it offers, which is very helpful.
Okay, we're content. Thank you very much. Any further questions from members, please? If there are no further questions, we're going to move to debate. Is there any points that anybody would like to debate, or we will move to recommendations? Colleagues, we're being recommended to approve the proposed Transport Capital Programme of Works for 25-26 and authorise direct award of the works to Milestone Infrastructure Limited using the existing Peterborough Highways term service contract for a total sum not exceeding £7,575,000 787. Are we content to agree that recommendation? Agreed. Thank you. Item 6, excuse me. Item 6 is the Cambridge and Peterborough Minerals and Waste Local Plan. This can be found on pages 33 to 48 of the agenda. As Councillor Thorburn, the Cabinet Member for Growth and Regeneration, has given his apologies, I will present this report on his behalf. Cabinet will be aware that national planning policy requires local plans to be reviewed every 5 years, and work on ours is progressing at pace. Separate to this, the current Minerals and Waste Local Plan, prepared jointly with Cambridgeshire County Council, was adopted in July 2021, and we're now at a point where it is appropriate for the Council to decide whether to commence a review. In January 2023, full council approved our local development scheme, which confirmed commencement of a new local plan for Peterborough. The local development scheme was further updated in February 2025. Today's report sets out further revisions to the local development scheme, specifically to provide a timetable for the proposed new minerals and waste local plan. These revisions do not include any changes to the timetable for the Peterborough local plan itself. Thanks to me. We'll now move to questions. Any questions from anyone, please? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, just a quick question really about Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. Gets a mention in there, and obviously as we're aware, with all the changes in the reorganisation, how will that have, if it will have any effect on this plan that's going to be undertaken? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Gemma, do you want to pick that up for me, please?
I think it's the same with preparing the local plan. Government have said and made it quite clear that we're to carry on and to ensure we have these plans in place. And minerals and waste plans are normally prepared at a much larger scale anyway, just because of the scale of finding quarries and sites and things like that. So that's why it'd probably still continue to perhaps be prepared at a wider scale anyway, whatever happens with local government reorganisation.
Thank you, Gemma. Any further questions from members? If not, we'll move to debate. Any debate before we move to recommendations? Okay, Cabinet is recommended to 1. Approve commencement a review of the Minerals and Waste Local Plan for Peterborough. 2. Approves the attached local development scheme which sets out a timetable to produce the Peterborough Local Plan and a Minerals and Waste Local Plan to come into effect on the 18th of April 2025. And 3. Delegate authority to the Executive Director, Place and Economy to make minor alterations and update and republish the Peterborough LDS. Are we content to agree those recommendations? Agreed? Thank you. Item 7, expansion of the Duke of Bedford School. The next item is the expansion of the Duke of Bedford School. This item can be found on pages 49 to 64 of the agenda. Councillor Cole, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, will you be kind enough to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Leader, and through you. The Council has a statutory duty to provide a school place for every child living in its area of responsibility who is of school age and whose parents want their child educated in the state sector. To achieve this, the Council must keep the number of school places under review and take appropriate steps to manage the position where necessary. Under the Education and Inspections Act 2006, the Council are required to adopt a strategic role with a duty to promote choice, diversity and fair access to school provision. The demographic area demonstrates the need for increased places at the Duke of Bedford School following a recent housing development in Thorney. As a result, additional classrooms are required to accommodate the demand for pupil places. Local schools for local children is a priority for this administration, and I'm delighted that the school have agreed to take up to 15 additional pupils over the current published admission number and therefore require 2 additional classrooms to deal with the capacity. This project is being funded by the Community Infrastructure Levy, or CIL, contributions from the housing developer as well as the Basic Need grant funding. If approved by Cabinet, the project will commence in May 2025 with a plan of opening ready for September 2025's intake of pupils. This helping to reduce the need for home-to-school transport for pupils in this area.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Members, do we have any questions, please? Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Leader. A couple of questions. Firstly, you've given the number as 15. Is that 15 per year group or is that 15 to the total school year?
That's an additional 15 pupils for this next academic year, and then that school's intake will have increased by 15 in the years going ahead.
Thank you. You've got another question as well. Having sat on planning committee for a number of years, and then we get housing development applications, and one of the things that residents always complain about is infrastructure. Now, this is now going to cause an additional problem for those residents. What are we doing as a council in order to alleviate some of those problems for residents?
Councillor Angus, no? Oh, sorry, you want the question as well. Councillor Cole, sorry. You did that with such alacrity, I was took me by surprise. Councillor Cole, do you want to pick that up, or
Yes.
John?
Thank you, Leader, and through you. So I understand that when schools expand and there's an additional transport or cars or pupil numbers, that can be really frustrating for residents in the local area. But I'm assured by the planning team that regulations will be put in place to ensure that this can be monitored. There's also the active travel, which I will ask my fellow councillor Angus Ellis about, which encourages pupils to bike, walk, cycle to school as well. So I will pass on to my fellow councillor, Councillor Ellis, to explain a bit more about active travel.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. This is sort of answering my own question a little bit, or whichever way around it is. But yeah, it is important. As you said at the beginning, it's local schools for local children. So the majority, hopefully or probably, will be local, and it's very important that we encourage people to walk, cycle to school rather than just jump in a car. And some people just do that around the corner. So I'll definitely ask my team to definitely look at what we can do to support cycle routes, safe cycle routes, pavements, and work with the school for some sort of plan for people getting to school. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Jamil, are you happy?
Yeah,
Content?
if, as my fellow cabinet members have said, if it goes ahead, then if there's any issues, I'm sure we'll be able to deal with them. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Councillor Ellis, would you... You've answered your own question, have you? That's great. Councillor Cole.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that the ward councillors for this area have also been involved in discussions around the expansion of this school. They were invited to a meeting with Rachel Floyd, part of the planning team, so that they had their opportunity to ask all questions to officers at the time when this was coming to fruition.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. I think expanding local schools, again, to increase local places for local children is never a bad thing. Any other questions before we move to debate? And is there indeed any debate on this? I'm not seeing any hands raised, so Cabinet is recommended to 1, authorise the school expansion at the Duke of Bedford School by provision of 2 mobile classrooms with toilets, and within the existing school building provide a further classroom together with reconfigured WCs. 2, agree the high-level project budget costs as set out in the exempt annex to this report. And 3, agree option 2 as set out in the delivery options at 4.3.4, delegate authority to the Executive Director for Children and Young People Service to authorise the award of contract for the works subject to approval from legal, finance and procurement. Are we content to agree? Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being in attendance. I will now close. Isra, sorry. Is there? Recommendation 5, have you got it there? I do beg your pardon, it's obviously missed off my page. I beg your pardon, delegate the authority to the Executive Director for Corporate Services in consultation with the Director of Legal and Governance to take all necessary steps to give effect to the recommendations, including entering into any necessary legal agreements. Now I know why you raised it. Okay. Are we agreed? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I will now close the meeting.